Hey guys, Maroc Wolf here, bringing you another green stuffing tutorial. And today what we're going to do is scales. So I figured I'm working on this, I might as well bang out a tutorial while I'm working on it. So when you're doing scales with green stuff, there's a couple of different ways that you can go about doing it. There is your typical GW scales, which as you can see here are basically just a bunch of hexagon shapes all crammed together, which create a very scaled look. There is your bigger scales, which you can see here, which are sort of these boxy sort of spiky bits, which are a lot larger than GW's hexagon shapes. And then you've got a combination of the two, which is what I think always looks best, which is a combination of the hexagon shapes and larger bumps and bony protrusions and things of that nature. There's also one more which you don't see as often, which is scaled plates, which is what I've started on Gorok's back of his neck here, which is just basically armored plates moving down. So what we're going to do today is we are going to take a look at how to go about doing all three. Alright, so we have our green stuff mixed, and what we're going to do is we're going to take off a piece that's about this big. Knead that into the basic shape of what you're looking for. In this case, we're going to do the flat armored plates like this first. And we are just going to place that like so. So it looks like that. I know it doesn't look like much right now, but we'll get there. Next thing you're going to want to do is dip your sculpting tool into a little bit of clean water. This is so that the green stuff doesn't get stuck to the sculpting tool. And then we're going to just knead that and make it fit into the creases here up next to the other scales so that it looks like this one's coming out from underneath the next one. And don't be afraid to go back and re-wet your sculpting tool, because water is your friend when you're working with green stuff. So we're just going to flatten the rest of this out. Make sure that the scale itself looks mostly even across the whole top of it. So when you got it all flattened out, it'll look something like this. Next, we're going to flatten the edge. So all you need to do this, let's see if I can get a good angle going here. There we go. So you're going to take your sculpting tool and you're just going to press up against the flat edge here and run it along that just to get a sharp line. We're not looking to push or displace anything, we're just going to run it along that line so that it gets a little bit sharper. So we're looking at it, and from that view it looks like that. And that's what's going to give you that ridge effect going along the back of his neck. Like so, see? Next thing you're going to want to do, because most scales have seen better days, they're not all going to be perfectly smooth, is you're going to want to put some striations in there just to make sure that the scales are rough looking. And to do this, it's very, very simple. All you need to do is draw some lines into it with your sculpting tool. And then, if you're familiar with the comic book style of shading, we're just going to do some hexes. So we're going to draw some horizontal lines across the vertical ones that we just did. And this is going to give you sort of a hex pattern. I'm not sure if that's actually going to show up on the camera or not. It should. There we go. So as you can see, it gives the scales a rougher look. And that's that scale done. It's that quick and that easy. So next what we're going to do is what I've done here on the side of his neck, which is more of a circular bony protrusion scale. So in order to do that, all you need is a very, very small piece of green stuff. As you can see, that's not very big at all. And we're just going to place it on his shoulder here. Just like so. You can see it just right there. And we're going to wet our sculpting tool one more time. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to shape that. Make sure that any folds that are in the green stuff from you kneading it are smoothed out and unseen. We're going to blend all the edges in. A lot of the shaping work from doing scales is very much done before you even put the scale on the model. You're basically doing the basic shape of it just as if you were drawing, and then putting the little details in afterwards. So we're just blending the edges in so that they are unseen. And there we go. So we have one more bony protrusion in there. Sorry, I'm doing this backwards, so it's really hard to sort of get the right angle. And then we're going to do the exact same thing that we did before with the scale on his back here, which is just to put some striations in there so that it doesn't quite look so smooth, because scale is basically bone, and bone is never perfectly smooth when it's been exposed to the elements. Okay, so there's that one done. Next one we're going to do is the hexagon scales, and this one is by far the hardest one to do, which is why I rarely do it. But sometimes it's required. Gorok, this fig in and of itself, isn't going to have any of that. I'm going to go through and do all bony protrusions. Talking is difficult. And these armored plates are going to go all the way down his back. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this one aside. And I have this fig here, which is the, I think we can zoom out a little bit. There we go. So we have this fig here, which is the Privateer Press Black-Hide Wrestler. So I've already had to green stuff in a gap right here, so we're just gonna go right here. Again, just placing your green stuff in the basic shape of what you need it before you put on. Then we are going to flatten this out. And just smooth it out. Don't flatten it completely out, because you're going to want some of that thickness, because it's going to help you do the scales deeper and be more defined, so that they're going to catch washes and things of that nature a lot better. So I'm going to tighten this right in here so you can actually see what I'm doing without going out of focus, please. Thank you. Alright. And then what we're going to do here is we're just going to draw some lines in this green stuff. Just do one at first. As you can see, my water's not exactly clean, but it'll help show the lines a little bit better. And if you get too much water on your green stuff to the point where it's not sticking, that's okay, just go like this. Just blow on it and that water will go away and you don't have to touch your green stuff, so there will be no issues there. Okay, so we're just gonna dampen off here, and then from this one line that we put in here, we're gonna do a bunch of scales. So we're gonna push in right there, and remember that not all scales are perfect, so that if you're doing your scales and you find that you're doing a bunch of squares instead of hexagons, that's okay. Don't worry about it. So we're just going to do another big line. I'll wet our tool again with my not so clean water. Doing this with clean water is very much advised because it'll help keep everything nice and neat. I'm just doing this with dirty water so that you can actually see where I'm putting these lines in. It's a lot easier to see on camera, especially with the Gorok fig there, because Gorok is at the moment all green. So like I said, we're just putting in a bunch of lines. I'm gonna make this one a little bit more defined. Okay, so we have our bunch of lines there, but right now what it looks like is just a lot of lumps. So scales are flat. They're not, some can be rounded, but for the most part scales typically have a flat top. So when you're done putting your lines in, you want to just go back and sort of flatten out the tops. And this will keep your, as long as you're not pushing down super hard when you're going about doing this, you're just flattening out the tops. And this is going to give you that scaled look with flat scales and keep all those lines that you put in. And there you have it. So there you go, my friends. This is Murok Wolf signing off. That's how to do scales in green stuff. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.